Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
For every challenge that you have within a loss or a change of a life situation, don't try to fix it all at once. Try to break it down. Take charge of it. Make a list. Embrace the people around you that are just knocking at your door to help you, and break it down one day at a time.
Today on the Nice Guys podcast, fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles. Oh, no, that's The Princess Bride. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Nice Guy community, welcome back. It is Wednesday. We have a great interview with Rachel Cadenas today. I have to say her name quickly before I even introduce us because I don't want to screw up the pronunciation. And if I say I'm Strickland Bonner, Doug Sandler on the other side of the microphone, I will just forget.
It's so interesting. It took us 2 takes to do that.
We've never done a second take of an intro, I don't think.
You know what? I think that Rachel's subject matter is so great and so important and so wonderful that I don't think we should have screwed up on her name. So I think the idea of actually doing 2 takes was critical. I think that actually shows good guest management strategy, Strickland.
Because, Rachel, it's all about embracing life's challenges, the expected and the unexpected. And if the worst challenge that we have to deal with is doing a take 2 of an intro for an interview, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty true. Hey, before we get to the interview with Rachel, just a quick mention, a reminder to those of you listening on Overcast, just take a quick moment. Right next to the play key, there is the recommend star. Just hit the star. Go back as many episodes as you can. Let's keep our show, The Nice Guys on Business, in the #1 spot in the business category and the #1 spot above Tim Ferriss. Hell yeah! In the overall most recommended category on Overcast. Where we are on iTunes, no idea. You know what? Don't even care. Don't even.
We cracked the top 200. I don't know if we're still there or not.
No, we did crack 200. We were at 170 something for a couple of days, and then I don't really understand how that whole system works.
Nobody
does.
Don't.
I think they purposely change it all the time, or they keep it secret.
It's like Italian bistro-mathics.
Wait a second.
Sorry, that was a reference to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's complicated. I don't want to get into the explanation. Maybe on another day I will, but it's really entertaining, but it's not a quick explanation, so we won't get into
All right,
that.
well, let's just jump right in with the interview with Rachel right here on the Nice Guys on Business podcast. I know for me personally, I need to do a better job of embracing my inner CEO and taking control of my own life. Well, Rachel Cadenas has been helping others embrace life's changes for many years. And as an author, a speaker, and advisor, Rachel helps you deal with one day at a time. Welcome, Rachel, to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thanks, Doug. I'm glad to be on today.
I'm happy to have you here, and I believe our good friend Kim Tracy may have put us together. Does that sound familiar to you at all, or no?
Absolutely. She is the woman.
Yeah, Maxwell James Agency has done such a great job of putting a number of their speakers and professionals in front of our audience, and they really have found a good calling with that. So why don't you share with our Nice Guy community a little bit of your backstory, and then we can get into what you do today in order to share and spread your message with our community specifically, but with all communities in general. So give me a little bit of your backstory.
So it's interesting. So when I graduated college, my goal was to break the glass ceiling of telecommunications and IT. And I went the route of EDS, Sprint, all these large corporations. And then I had an unfortunate situation that my husband suddenly died with, it was just arrhythmia, and it changed my trajectory of my life. At the time, I had a 2-year-old daughter, and all of a sudden this IT telecommunications, while it was fascinating, and yes, I still wanted to break that glass ceiling, what I found was it didn't matter enough to my heart but I had this whole huge business background, and that led into me helping corporations when there was grief in the workplace. And it wasn't specifically for the griever. It was for the coworkers and managers of how do you handle this person that has a life setback, but is actually a very good employee and will put their feet back on the ground. But how do we help them get there in the shortest period of time? So I found my little niche, and that led to so many different changed my trajectory, and it led to writing books and talking nationally and internationally on all types of topics around embracing life's challenges, those that are expected and those that are not expected.
So, and that's such a compelling reason to do what you're doing now. And I know it's not a, I guess it's a challenging thing for me to say, maybe absolutely a challenging thing for you to hear. You never want to hear that anything good came out of something bad, or at least that if you deal with any pain, that's always a challenging spot. But do you feel like that the good that came out of this horrible tragedy that happened in your life is that you're able to share your message and share your story and teach others how to deal with what you have had to deal with in your life?
Yes, and that's a very good question, because there's so many people, like I wrote the book Living with Loss One Day at a Time, and the whole notion of it is one day at a time. Why do you have to do this all at once? Because this loss, and even if you're in a car accident and you lose a leg, that leg doesn't come back on. So, you're embracing life's challenges, and the whole notion one day at a time, that you can't kind of just expect your life to find its way again. You've got to build it yourself. It's only you that can do that. But it doesn't matter whether it's a health or whether it's raising a bratty child or whatever it might be that is in what you're challenged with. And yes, to answer your question, does good come out of bad? Always. Always. And, not worth a life in this case, but, I found a place for me. I found, I raised that 2-year-old daughter. We find our way.
Yeah. And I would say that if you had the opportunity to go back and change whatever situation or find or figure out what was gone wrong, I'm sure you would have determined that it would have been much better to have your husband with you than to have a career in helping others, kind of deal with and settle with and have a comfortable spot. Leave that to somebody else, right? Leave it to somebody else.
Right.
So help, because I see in a lot of the things that I've seen written about you and the attitude and the philosophy that you kind of portray in a lot of the videos that I've seen about you and for you, that you definitely have the philosophy of don't sweat the small stuff. Or maybe am I reading it wrong? Should people sweat the small stuff, or is it just small stuff go away?
Okay, so I'm going to take that a little differently. Okay, so when you say don't sweat the small stuff, to somebody, a fender bender that cost $1,000, that is a big thing for them. For me, not that I want to spend $1,000 on a fender bender. To me, that is just something like, oh, oopsie, I'm so bummed at myself, but it's not going to change my day today. I mean, it does, of course, for the day, because you go home and pout, but it's not going to change who I am or what I'm doing. But what I've learned is, take those, even whether it's small, large, or whatever size it is, take that challenge that you have and put a plan to deal with it. Don't try to think that it's going to go away, because it's not going to go away. So in the case of a loss like mine, there's nothing to fix. He's dead. He's not coming back. So there's nothing to fix. What there is for me to find my way with this new circumstances I have. No difference if you lose a job. No difference if you have a natural disaster that comes through your neighborhood. You can't get that water to go away and life to be exactly the way it was. It just doesn't work that way. So how do I rebuild and take care of myself and where I want to be in life, but yet take this loss and this setback and put it into a situation that you can move forward?
You mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I would, and I just want to, again, mirror the sentiment that you wrote this book called Living with Loss One Day at a Time. It's got many, many positive reviews, and it's hit on several great topics, defining ways to heal, ways to grieve, and ways to keep life in perspective to a certain degree. But if you had to pick one way to help people to deal, and I know it's hard to kind of narrow it down, only because of the short format of the show, I would say let's talk about the 37 ways in which to deal with loss or grief or issues in one's life. But if you had to pick one way to help people deal with the pain of loss or suffering, is there certain something that you could use today to help?
Well, I don't know if I could zero it down to one, but one big thing that I would like to say is that just taking charge of the situation, and you could take charge of it in many different ways. I did a podcast on what to do with people's personal belongings, and you don't have to do it all at once. Thin it out. So for every challenge that you have within a loss or a change of a life situation, is don't try to, like I said earlier, don't try to fix it all at once. Try to break it down. Take charge of it, make a list, embrace the people around you that are just knocking at your door to help you, and break it down one day at a time. And that's why I call it one day at a time. It took my whole family a lot of hours to figure out how we're going to title this, but it truly is one day at a time. They didn't build Rome in a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I recently lost my stepfather of 47 years just about a year ago, and my mom went through this. And I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And my mom went through this, I guess what I would consider either depression or anxiety, or maybe it was just the pain of being alone after so many years of having a partner. What advice can you offer for those that have dealt with? I mean, everybody in our community has dealt with loss in one way, shape, or form, some greater than others, but we are not the measuring stick of that. Those people are the measuring stick of that. How do you help deal with comfort to those that are closest to us? How can we do that with those people in our lives?
So the one big thing is, as I've said a couple times, don't try to fix it. But the other big piece of it is no judgment. No judgment. Don't even think for a second, well, if I were in your shoes, this is how I would handle it. If you were in my shoes, Doug, you would handle it differently. I can guarantee it. Yeah. Right? And so you've got two people that have lost a parent or lost, as you're sharing, like an in-law or something. Just because you experience ABC doesn't mean that they're going to experience ABC. We don't know what happens behind their front doors. We don't know what happens first of all, their bandwidth, their coping that they have, whatever their situation is. So if you'd ask me to, a couple things is one is do not judge. Do not try to compare. Just open your arms. Don't try to fix it. Just listen, listen, listen.
That's great advice. Absolutely great advice. Are there any tools that you feel are good for those dealing with either adversity or loss in their lives?
So there's a couple things that I share. So in my book, there's 365 what I call lessons and thoughts every day. Some days I'm really nice to my readers, and I suggest they have a soothing cup of tea and sit on the couch and eat bonbons.
Wait a minute. Can I stay in my pajamas all day? This might not be a bad.
You don't even have to brush your teeth, Doug. How's that?
That sounds perfect to me.
And other days I tell them they need to get up and get out of the house and have a meal outside the house with another human being. It could be a meal. It could be a business meeting. It could be whatever fits into your daily activities. But the point is that when you get up, you get up. When you get up, you get dressed, you make the plan, you get out the door. When you get there and you're driving home, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I could do it again tomorrow. So it's that piece that I shared earlier. Thin it out. Do a little bit at a time. Don't try to say, I'm going back to work and I'm going to go back full time. It doesn't work that way because you just can't. You're too tired. You just can't do that way. So if there were a couple things that I would try to share is one, I said taking charge and, of course, being the CEO of your own life. You do what is best for you. There's going to be a lot of people around you that are going to tell you the magic word, what you should be doing. But what you should be doing is what you feel comfortable with what you're doing. So whatever is your loss, whatever it is, if it's a divorce, if it's a death, if it's a loss of a job, if it's financial, be your own CEO. Do what's right for you, and other people will jump on your direction. Yeah.
That, again, great advice. You mentioned a couple of times through there that oftentimes it's not just those that are around us, but it's those that we are working with. And in a workplace, it's a whole different environment. Now, you wrote a book about grieving in the workplace also, right?
Yes, it's Grief in the Workplace, a comprehensive guide to being prepared. And it's really for managers, coworkers, EAPs, HR. Not for the griever, although it supports the griever indirectly, but the whole idea of it is how do you handle this person that's coming back to work? I mean, I'm not going to lie to your audience to say that grief gets thrown into mental illness. I don't consider myself any mental illness, and I think it's insulting to other people that have a mental illness that a short-term setback is thrown into that arena. But really what happened is I have a setback in my life, and I might be a little bit more tired and I might be floundering a little bit, but I'm still Rachel.
Yeah.
And I will always be Rachel. So that's what the whole grief in the workplace, my whole idea of that book is that's why I call it comprehensive guide to being prepared, is helping the coworker when they come to work and come back to work. And some examples I have is have the manager meet with the person before they come back to work. So that first day when you get there, it's not like, oh, I'm really sorry about your loss, or I'm really this, I'm really that. You've already had that.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing to the coworkers. Acknowledge the loss before they return to work. So if you send a card or make a donation, Doug, when I run into you, when I get back to work, I can look at you and say, Doug, I really appreciate that donation you made. That way it's not awkward. So just little tricks like that makes the transition back to work much easier for not just the griever, but really the coworker that doesn't know what to say.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's just as challenging, not just as, but it's just a different level. It's challenging for I never know how to react with somebody when they've had a loss. And this may sound completely silly and maybe it's crazy, but even the loss of a pet sometimes is a challenging thing for you to, pets are oftentimes they're family members to many people. I don't know how to react. A neighbor of mine lost a pet. I really didn't know how to react. It was like, oh my gosh, what do I even do? And a little handwritten note left in their mailbox, or a little basket of cookies, or anything like that, just to acknowledge is sometimes a good thing. Again, is this completely out of character, or is that something that's okay?
No, not at all. So this is what I'm about to tell you. It's either more people are going to listen to your podcast, or they're going to get mad at us and they're going to hang up.
Let them get mad at us. That's okay. I'm not adverse to that.
Okay. So this is, as I told you earlier, I travel all over doing presentations to corporations and to conferences and do all types of things. And I do like to do the wow, like the fact, like there's always something in my presentation that I just like to stump the audience and make them be like, okay, what did she just say?
Okay.
So here we go. Here we go. Okay.
Yep.
So when I'm at the podium, I'll say to them, so, I've got people in my life that will think that, they lost their dog, and they think it's the same thing as that I lost my husband. And the whole audience, they start with their oohs and their ahs. And I said, well, hang on. Let me just finish what I'm going to say.
Okay. I like it, Rachel. I like you already.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to say.
Uh-huh.
Who am I? That's that judgment I spoke of earlier. Who am I to say, Doug, if you've lost your dog, and that's the most important thing in your living thing in your life, it's the person, not a person, but the living, that greets you at the door, that sits by your feet when you eat a meal, that sleeps on the bottom of your bed, that loves you unconditionally. How can I say that your loss of that dog is any different than me losing my husband, who shared my bed, father of my daughter, whatever you want to say?
Right.
I've never had a pet. I couldn't even for 1 second say that loss isn't as disruptive. There's a lot of people out there that will say, Rachel, it was a pet. But there's a lot of people out there that will say it was my special living person.
No, I'm with you. I'm just hoping, I wanted you to take it to the next level. So you're saying that that's okay, right? I'm assuming you're saying that if somebody says my pet was just as important to me as your husband was, and you're arguing with that, and somebody would say you're full of shit. That's just it's not the case. But what you're saying is it's okay. You can have that pet or that person or that goldfish or that whatever. It doesn't have to even be a living, breathing object. It could be a loss of a something else in your life that you just cannot replace because of sentimental value. Is that a fair statement, or I just want to make sure I'm clear?
There's going to be people that will argue it. That's why I said either people will turn this off or they'll be like because people will argue that both sides. Because when a gentleman said to me, Rachel, I know what you're going, like a month after my husband passed away, and said, I wanted to just throw him down the elevator shaft. Right. But as I've spent 20 years listening to people and what they consider to be their loss, I have to go with, I can't compare my husband to a dog, but I can compare their emotional reaction to a loss to mine.
Yeah. Where would you advise someone go in the event that they have a loss, not sure what to do next? They either don't have a synagogue or a church or a counseling group to participate in. Where do you go for help? Where is that help desk for you that is grieving?
So it's interesting that you asked that because there is so much out there, and this wonderful thing called the internet helps you find them. So what I'm finding in my years of running support groups and writing and speaking is that there's a lot of people that might shy away from their religious affiliations. And I believe the reason why they do that is because that's their safe haven, and they don't want to break it up and make it into an emotional haven. Mm-hmm. But there's so much loss of a child, there's national organizations that have local chapters everywhere. There are online support groups. So when I used to say that I was trapped in suburbia at night, and there wasn't an internet then, but I was able to talk to somebody on the phone. To me personally, peer support of the type of loss you had is what I consider to be the most helpful. Not throughout the whole process, because I don't know what somebody was like before they had their loss. But if they're trying to just break through and understand, like if you've lost a child, a peer of somebody else that has lost a child, it's very helpful. Because they give ideas of memorials of how to respond to people. Like I always say, find your elevator speech when somebody says something to you so you don't get defensive. Yeah. I work with Camp Widow, and it's a plug for them. There's hundreds and hundreds of young widows and widowers that go to that it's peer. It's all peer. And I think that's a great place. So you can find all that on the internet, or you can get me through my website, and I'd be more than happy to help you.
Appreciate that. We'll make sure we put all of your information and links in the show notes as well. Let me just take another perspective for just a moment. As somebody that is on the giving side of grief counseling, but as an amateur like me, with dealing with my mom with the loss of my stepfather, and although there's a certain amount of grief that I had to go through with my stepfather's passing, of course it had much of a greater impact with my mom. How do I know, as the person that is the supporting person, when to kind of ease the pedal up a little bit with I don't have to check on her every 3 hours, and how do I know what the right amount of support to give without being so overbearing and saying, "Hey mom, what do you need from me exactly?" Or do I do that?
So I would say that's interesting that you answered your own question. So I'll just stand here and pretend that I'm not listening.
Well, you're the professional, but you can confirm.
But I'm really not a professional because I'm not licensed. I'm just somebody I'm more of somebody that's just been doing this, and I like my approach to it because it's realistic. And remember, I come from business, so I have to get back to that bottom line of how to make this all work. But anyway, so I think we hover too much. And it was very interesting. I ran a loss of a parent group for adult children, and I ran a group on one Wednesday night. The next Wednesday night, I ran a widow group. And I heard in the widow group that all the widows saying, "I don't want to cry in front of my kids." These are adult kids. "I don't want to cry in front of adult kids because I don't want this. I don't want to do that." And then I go to the loss of a parent, and they were like, "Well, I don't want to ask my surviving parent this or that because I don't want to get them upset." So to both the groups, this loss is going to affect you both. It's not like you could turn it on and turn it off. It's going to come in waves, but it's there all the time. I truly believe, Doug, the best answer to that question is ask your mother.
Yeah.
Ask her, because if she says to you, "You know what, I need you to check in," or let's set some boundaries on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or let's have one solid meal a week so that we can really catch up on things outside of the loss of dad, whatever it is. But just ask her.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good solution. Knowing me, I get a case of the Jewish son guilts, and my mom gets a case of the Jewish mom guilts in presenting those issues. So oftentimes it's like, and my community knows this already. They know that I'm the baby boy of the family. And for me, it's like, I always want to be like right there, to protect everything that's going on around me. But at the same time, I need to give my mom enough room. But you're 100% right. I probably just need to have a conversation with my mom about, what I just didn't want to make it so like, "Well, what's your expectation of me, mom?" I didn't want to make it seem like that. I wanted to make it seem like I could read her mind and be right there when she needs me to be there. But that's just not realistic, I don't think.
So my one suggestion is for you, don't overthink it. Just be.
Oh yeah.
Just be.
I think it's too late for that, Rachel.
Oh.
I've been overthinking this for several decades already. I'm sure.
Right. And it's, we all communicate differently and we all interpret people differently. And so it's going to happen and you're not going to strike it right every time. Let's just say that way. You're going to go to bed feeling guilty many nights, and other nights you're going to go to bed feeling like, oh, wow, you really got there today.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all of your message and your words of wisdom with our Nice Guy community. If our group wanted to get in touch with you to just find out what you do a little bit more and get in touch with you, potentially even to speak at their organization, what is the best way to do that?
Well, through my website, you can get everything, my phone number and my email address.
That's, we'll put it in the show notes. They're driving. I can't have them write down. I think they'll probably sue me, Rachel, at this point, but we'll make sure we put, Rachel's spelling of her last name. It's not that complicated. What was your maiden name?
So my deceased husband's name was Blythe. So that's what I go by, Rachel Blythe Kadanis. But my real maiden name is Kramer.
Oh, see, you should have just stayed with Kramer. That would have been really easy.
My daughter, actually, to end this podcast, my daughter, when I got remarried, and I hate that word, remarried, my daughter begged my new husband to take our name. And I was like, well, it was my deceased husband's name. It's not really my name to give. But I agree with you. I agree that I married into a terrible name. Nice guy, but.
Nice guy. See, he should be a Nice Guys on Business podcast guest also, is a nice guy.
Right.
Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your message and and all of the wisdom that you have again on our show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or a good last name also. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. Haven't they run out of people willing to talk to them yet?
Kadanis.
Okay.
Okay. Good. We just have to say it once.
Yeah.
The last
I won't
name
even say it.
Kadanis.
I'll let you say it.
Okay, great. We ready?
I'll let you say it. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Funkin' fans, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Doug Sandler. No, I'm sorry. Doug is on the other side of the microphone.
Or you're trying so hard so that you pronounce her name properly. You forgot
You're
your
right.
name.
I'm like totally before I get any further, before I even introduce us, so I don't forget her name, the pronunciation of her name, Rachel. You see, I've already fucking forgotten. Okay, we're going to start that one over again because I don't want to say fucking forgotten for her. Okay, hold on.
Is it Kadanis?
I've got to listen again now. Kadanis. Okay, we're going to start over again. Take two.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed Strickland. Prepare to celebrate.